Je gaat luisteren naar Michael Osbaldeston, een adviseur van de City and Guilds groep in Londen. City and Guilds is een organisatie die zich al meer dan 140 jaar bezighoudt met onderwijs en certificering. Michael vertelt over de ontstaansgeschiedenis en het belang van de organisatie. Bij dit onderdeel wordt nagegaan of je weet wat de hoofdzaken en de belangrijkste details zijn uit een lange fragment. Tijdens het luisteren houd je het opgaveboekje gesloten. Na afloop van het fragment krijg je de tijd om de opgave te lezen en te beantwoorden. Het beantwoorden van de vragen gebeurt in de antwoordpauze. Tijdens een antwoordpauze zie je in beeld de tijd teruglopen. Als je nog 1 minuut de tijd hebt, hoor je het volgende geluid. Bij het tweede geluid is de antwoordpauze voorbij. Houd je opgaveboekje gesloten. Het fragment begint nu.
I'm Michael Osbaldeston and I'm the Special Advisor here at the City and Guilds Group, which is a 140-year-old organisation with a royal charter to encourage the development of skills for the benefit of individuals, organisations and national economies. City and Guilds, well, first of all, it was founded by the city livery companies, and those are the historic craft guilds that were responsible for centuries in terms of defining what somebody had to do to be a goldsmith or a blacksmith or a stonemason or a carpenter, or these days an information technologist or whatever it might be. They came together with the corporation and the City of London 140 years ago and founded an organisation that had the responsibility to encourage the development of skills, to ensure that the national workforce had the skills it needed for the nation to be economically successful. But interestingly, 150 years ago it was recognised that apprenticeships weren't delivering what they needed to deliver. That sounds very typical of today again. And there was a real challenge that the workforce in the 1850s and 1860s and even the 1870s simply didn't have the skills it needed in an evolving global economy. Again, it sounds very typical of today that you need a nation's workforce to have the skills needed to be competitive. These coming together of guilds meant that organisations could define standards that was required if you were going to carry out virtually any job there was within London. London, of course, was the world's major manufacturing city for centuries. So if you were working in any form, you needed to ensure that the work that you did was of a standard. Today, the goldsmiths are still, of course, assay gold and silver and put their mark on pieces of jewellery or whatever it might be to show that it is of a standard. In the early days, we were responsible for examinations, simply. There were 202 candidates back in 1879. 151 of them passed their first exams. And they were in things like iron and steel production and cloth working, various things like that you'd expect. Very early on in the history of City and Guilds, we created 2 institutions, 2 physical buildings. One was in Finsbury Park in North London, and that became the forerunner of all the technical education colleges in the country. The other was our Central Institute, which was in South Kensington, on the site of the Great Exhibition that had been there in 1851. And that was a more advanced institution, and eventually joined with the Royal School of Mines and the Royal College of Science to become the Imperial College, which is one of the world's foremost universities. So we founded the initial college that would evolve into the model for further education, and we founded Imperial College. So we began with a number of physical bodies. We then evolved as those bodies were given independence and moved away to offering qualifications, to offering examinations, and then we evolved even further to create other organisations that sit within the UK's skills world. The UK is different from most European countries in that qualifications don't sit with the government. And in fact, even GCSEs and A-levels are offered by independent organisations. There are no government examinations in England. So the government doesn't control. It controls in one sense, but it doesn't deliver examinations, either in school or in technical colleges or for employers. Although it's obviously deeply embedded in the policies that sit behind it. If we go back to when we were founded on the British Empire, the sun never set on it, as it said. We operated across the empire from the second, the third year we were in existence, and we continue to do so. We now operate in about 80 countries, many of which are former parts of the empire, which are now British Commonwealth countries, where English is the language which is used, and we operate mainly in English, in one or two other languages, but mainly in English. The need for portability in terms of qualifications and skills is quite important, and there are certain sectors where having a portable qualification provides opportunity to work worldwide. So hospitality and catering is a great one. If you go and stay in a hotel anywhere in the world, you expect certain standards. If you're the organisation that defines the international standard and you're recognised as the name that defines international standard, then regardless of where you train, you will want to have a certificate from the organisation that has credibility and recognition globally. And that's one of the reasons that we provide our qualifications globally, is because the name is well recognised in many parts of the world, and because it allows people to have portability of skills, then it's a very attractive name to have on a certificate when you're looking for a job if you want to move. And one of our things that we're looking at in terms of our policy and our bigger picture work is what the fourth industrial revolution will mean in the skills world. And one of the things that our research is showing that actually it's what makes people human will make them more employable. So even with all the artificial intelligence being brought to bear in many different parts of life, the basic fundamental elements of a human person, the ability to work with others, to problem solve, to communicate, to engage, to be empathetic, those attributes, more than skills, will become ever more important. We see we call them the half-life of skills getting shorter and shorter. So the technical skills that an individual may learn will need to be renewed regularly throughout their working life. Very few people will have a job for life. And so it's important that we underpin the technical skill with attributes and characteristics in young people of all ages, so they have the ability to learn new technical skills.
Tot zover het fragment. Begin nu aan de beantwoording van de vragen.